Imagine ruling an empire larger than Western Europe, about 540,000 square miles, stretching across the Sahel of West Africa. Now imagine doing it in the 1500s with no phones, no internet, no modern transportation. How do you keep it all connected? How do you maintain control over hundreds of miles of desert, savanna, and river? The Songhai Empire figured it out. At their peak under Askia Muhammad in the early 1500s, they controlled the Niger River, the trans-Saharan trade routes, and the legendary city of Timbuktu. They built a sophisticated administrative system with provinces, governors, and a professional bureaucracy. They maintained universities where scholars studied everything from astronomy to Islamic law, and they accumulated wealth that rivaled European kingdoms. But here's what's fascinating. The Songhai didn't invent this system from scratch. They learned from the Mali Empire that came before them, improved on it, and built something even larger. They proved that you can take someone else's blueprint, refine it, and create something greater. So how do you govern an empire stretching across the Sahara? How do you balance military power with scholarship? And what happens when superior technology arrives from across the sea? I'm Jack, this is Blueprints of Power, and today we're exploring the last of the great West African empires. Let's go. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Blueprints of Power. I'm Jack.
I'm Lily.
And I'm Charlie.
And after last week's heavy episode, I'm really glad to be covering a different kind of empire today.
Yeah, that Nazi episode was necessary but intense.
It was, but today we're back to exploring achievement and innovation. The Songhai Empire is one of the most impressive African civilizations, and it's criminally underrated.
So, let's set the stage. The Songhai Empire existed from about 1464 to 1591, just over a century, in West Africa, covering parts of modern-day Mali, Niger, Senegal, Nigeria, Burkina Faso, and other countries.
That's a lot of territory.
About 540,000 square miles at its peak. That's bigger than Mali at its height and comparable to the size of the entire Western Roman Empire.
And the Songhai controlled the same things that made Mali wealthy: the trans-Saharan trade routes, the gold trade, and the city of Timbuktu.
We talked about Timbuktu in the Mali episode.
Exactly. And under Songhai rule, Timbuktu reached its intellectual peak. The city had 3 major universities, Sankore, Jingwereber, and Sidi Yahya, with thousands of students studying Islamic law, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, literature, and history.
So Timbuktu was like the Oxford of Africa?
One of the great centers of learning in the world at that time. While Europe was going through the Renaissance, Timbuktu was producing scholars who wrote books, debated theology, and preserved ancient texts.
So, the Songhai weren't just wealthy, they were intellectually sophisticated.
Very sophisticated. And they built a highly organized administrative system. The empire was divided into provinces, each with a governor appointed by the emperor. They had a professional army, a taxation system, and a legal code based on Islamic law.
So they figured out how to govern a massive territory effectively?
They did. And that's one of the most interesting things about Songhai. They took the model Mali created, learned from Mali's mistakes, and built something more organized and efficient.
So they improved on what came before?
Exactly. Standing on the shoulders of giants. And for about a century, Songhai was the dominant power in West Africa. But then in 1591, something unexpected happened that brought the empire crashing down.
What happened?
Guns. The Moroccan army crossed the Sahara with firearms and cannons, and the Songhai couldn't defend against them.
So superior technology defeated them?
In one decisive battle, yes, but we'll get to that. First, let's talk about how Songhai rose to power and built their empire.
All right, Lily, take us back. Where did the Songhai people come from?
Okay, so the Songhai people had been living along the Niger River for centuries, centered around the city of Gao. They were originally subjects of the Mali Empire. Remember, Mali was the dominant power in West Africa in the 1200s and 1300s.
So they started under Mali's control?
Yes. Gao was an important trading city within the Mali Empire. But as Mali declined in the 1400s, weak leadership, rebellions, loss of territory, the Songhai saw an opportunity.
So they break away?
Gradually. By the mid-1400s, Gao is essentially independent, and in 1464, a Songhai leader named Sunni Ali becomes king and starts conquering territory.
Sunni Ali, good name.
He's one of the most important figures in West African history. Sunni Ali rules from 1464 to 1492, and he's a brilliant military commander and empire builder.
What does he do?
First, he conquers Timbuktu in 1468. Remember, Timbuktu was the intellectual and commercial center that had been controlled by Mali, and then by the Tuareg, Berber nomads from the desert. Sunni Ali takes it for Songhai.
So he's taking the most valuable city?
The crown jewel of West Africa, and then in 1473 he conquers Jenne, another crucial trading city. The siege of Jenne reportedly lasts 7 years before the city surrenders.
7 years? That's commitment.
It shows how valuable Jenne was. With Timbuktu, Jenne, and Gao under his control, Sunni Ali now controls the most important cities in the region.
So he's building an empire city by city?
Exactly. And he's also a skilled administrator. He organizes the army, establishes governors in conquered territories, and builds a navy to patrol the Niger River.
A navy in West Africa?
On the Niger River, yes. The Niger is a massive river, over 2,600 miles long, and controlling it means controlling trade and transportation. Sunni Ali builds a fleet of canoes and boats that can move troops, enforce control, and protect merchants.
That's smart. Control the river, control the trade.
Exactly. And Sunni Ali is also controversial. He's a Muslim, but he also practices traditional African religions. The Islamic scholars in Timbuktu don't like this. They see him as not devout enough. There's tension between Sunni Ali and the scholarly class.
So religious tensions?
Yes, but Sunni Ali is effective. By the time he dies in 1492, possibly drowned crossing a river, he's transformed Songhai from a city-state into a major empire.
And then what happens?
There's a brief succession crisis. Sunni Ali's son takes power, but in 1493, one of Sunni Ali's generals, a man named Mohammed Toure, stages a coup and takes the throne.
A military coup?
Yes. Mohammed Toure becomes emperor and takes the title Askia, which becomes his name, Askia Muhammad or Askia the Great, and he rules from 1493 to 1528, and under him, Songhai reaches its absolute peak.
What makes Askia Muhammad so great?
He's a brilliant administrator and a devout Muslim who makes Islam central to Songhai identity. In 1496 to 97, he goes on Hajj, pilgrimage to Mecca, just like Mansa Musa of Mali did.
Does he crash the economy with gold too?
He brings wealth and gives generously, but we don't have accounts of him causing inflation like Mansa Musa. But the pilgrimage is important because it establishes Askia Muhammad's legitimacy in the Islamic world.
So he's connecting Songhai to the broader Muslim world?
Exactly. And while in the Middle East, he meets scholars, consults with religious authorities, and brings back ideas for governance.
So he's learning from other Islamic empires?
Yes, and when he returns, he implements major reforms that transform Songhai into a highly organized state.
What kind of reforms?
Administrative reforms. He divides the empire into provinces, each governed by an appointed official. He creates a professional bureaucracy with specialized roles: tax collectors, judges, military commanders. He standardizes weights and measures for trade. He establishes a legal system based on Islamic law.
So he's bureaucratizing the empire?
Exactly. He's taking what was a conquest state under Sunni Ali and turning it into an organized empire with systems and institutions. And he continues expanding, conquering more territory to the east and west, bringing more of the Sahel under Songhai control.
How big does the empire get?
At its peak, about 540,000 square miles. It's the largest empire in African history at that point.
And they're controlling the gold trade?
They control the northern routes. Gold from the south still flows through Songhai territory to North Africa, Salt from the Sahara mines comes south. The empire taxes all of it and grows wealthy.
So they're rich and organized.
And culturally vibrant. Under Askia Muhammad, Timbuktu flourishes as a center of Islamic learning. Scholars write books, students come from across West Africa and North Africa to study, and the city becomes famous throughout the Islamic world.
All right, quick break. If you're enjoying this journey through the Songhai Empire, and I'm loving learning about civilizations I knew nothing about, hit that follow button. Subscribe to Blueprints of Power wherever you're listening. We're telling the full story of human history. Not just the usual European and Asian empires, but civilizations from every continent. Because power and achievement aren't limited to one region. Share this episode with someone who'd appreciate it. Send it to a teacher, a student, anyone interested in African history or world history in general. And please leave us a review. It helps us reach more listeners, and we genuinely read every single one. Tell us what you're learning, what you think, what empires you want us to cover. All right, back to the Songhai Empire. Because we're about to get into how they actually governed their massive empire and what made Timbuktu so special. Let's go.
Okay, so Askia Muhammad has built this massive empire. How do they actually run it?
Let me break down the Songhai recipe for power. Ingredient number 1, provincial administration. The empire is divided into provinces, and each province has a governor appointed by the Askia, the emperor.
So it's centralized?
It's centralized but delegated. The governors have significant local authority. They collect taxes, maintain order, raise troops if needed. But they're appointed by and accountable to the emperor, so they can be removed if they're corrupt or disloyal.
So there's oversight?
Yes, and the capital at Gao maintains control through inspectors and communications. The system is similar to what the Persians and Romans did, central authority with local administration.
So they're using proven governance models?
They're adapting them to West African conditions. And ingredient 2, a professional army. The Songhai military is organized and disciplined. They have cavalry. Horses are valuable in the Sahel and give military advantages. They have infantry with swords, spears, and bows. And they have the river navy.
How big is the army?
Estimates vary, but probably tens of thousands of soldiers. Not as large as some empires we've covered, but effective. And the army isn't just for conquest. It protects trade routes, suppresses rebellions, and defends borders.
So security for merchants?
Exactly. Safe trade routes are crucial for prosperity. And ingredient 3, the trans-Saharan trade. Like Mali before them, Songhai's wealth comes largely from controlling and taxing trade.
What's being traded?
Gold going north from the gold-producing regions south of Songhai. Salt coming south from mines like Tagaza in the Sahara. Also ivory, enslaved people unfortunately, cola nuts, textiles, and manufactured goods from North Africa and Europe.
So they're the middlemen again?
They control the routes and the major trading cities, and they tax everything passing through. The Askia gets a share of all trade, which funds the government, the army, and building projects.
What about the economy besides trade?
Agriculture is the foundation. The Niger River Valley is fertile, and farmers grow rice, millet, sorghum, and other crops. Fishing on the Niger provides protein. Livestock, cattle, goats, sheep are raised in the Sahel.
So they're self-sufficient in food?
Largely, yes. Trade brings wealth, but agriculture feeds the population. And ingredient 4, Timbuktu and scholarship. This is where Songhai really shines culturally.
Tell us about Timbuktu under Songhai.
Timbuktu becomes one of the great intellectual centers of the Islamic world. The Sankor Mosque and University has scholars teaching Islamic law, theology, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, history, and literature.
What subjects specifically?
Islamic jurisprudence, the interpretation of Islamic law, Arabic grammar and rhetoric, astronomy for determining prayer times and the Islamic calendar, mathematics for inheritance laws and commerce, medicine and healing, logic and philosophy.
So it's a full university curriculum?
A comprehensive Islamic education. And Timbuktu has an enormous book trade. Manuscripts are copied, bought, and sold. private libraries have thousands of books. Wealthy families collect manuscripts as status symbols.
So books are valuable.
Very valuable. Some families still have manuscript collections today. Hundreds of thousands of manuscripts have survived in Timbuktu. In recent years, there have been efforts to preserve and digitize them.
What do the manuscripts say?
Everything. Legal opinions, astronomical tables, medical treatises, poetry, historical chronicles, religious commentaries. They show how sophisticated West African scholarship was.
And this is all happening while Europe is doing what?
The Renaissance is happening in Europe. So both West Africa and Europe have vibrant intellectual cultures in the 1400s and 1500s. They're contemporaries.
But we learn about the Renaissance and not about Timbuktu.
That's the problem with how history is taught. Both matter. And ingredient 5, Islamic law and governance. Askia Muhammad establishes Islamic law as the basis for the legal system.
How does that work?
Judges, qadis, are appointed to administer Islamic law. They handle disputes, criminal cases, inheritance, marriage, and commerce. The legal system is codified and relatively consistent across the empire.
So everyone knows the rules?
In theory, yes, and this creates predictability, which helps trade and stability. And ingredient 6, architectural and cultural achievements. The Songhai build mosques, palaces, and public buildings.
Like what?
The Great Mosque of Jenne, which we mentioned in the Mali episode, is maintained and expanded. It's made of mud brick and is an architectural masterpiece. The Songhai Mosque in Timbuktu is another major structure.
Mud brick sounds fragile.
It requires maintenance. The community replasters it regularly, but it's sustainable and suited to the climate. It stays cool in the desert heat.
That's smart design.
Adapted to the environment. And Songhai culture blends Islamic and West African traditions. Music, textiles, oral storytelling. The griots continue their traditions of preserving history through songs and stories.
So culture is thriving?
Very much so. Under Askia Muhammad and his successors, Songhai is prosperous, organized, and culturally rich. But after Askia Muhammad is deposed by his son in 1528, he was old and blind by then, the empire starts to face challenges.
Here comes the decline.
Before we get into the fall of the Songhai Empire, I want to highlight something. The Songhai prove that African civilizations were just as sophisticated, organized, and intellectually vibrant as their European, Asian, or Middle Eastern counterparts. The reason we don't learn about them as much is about what gets taught, not what happened. If you're enjoying Blueprints of Power, please share this episode. Help challenge the narrative that Africa was somehow less advanced. These stories matter. Next week, we're covering the Safavid Empire in Persia, the empire that made Shia Islam the dominant religion in Iran and created stunning art and architecture. It's going to be beautiful, and please leave us a review if you haven't already. Every review helps the show grow and reach more listeners. All right, time to talk about what happened to the Songhai Empire and how it fell in a single battle. Let's get into it.
Okay, so Songhai is thriving under Askia Muhammad. What causes the decline?
After Askia Muhammad is deposed in 1528, there's a succession of emperors, some capable, some weak. The empire continues, but there are internal conflicts and power struggles.
So leadership gets weaker?
Less consistent? Yes. And by the late 1500s, there's a new threat from the north, Morocco.
Morocco? That's across the Sahara.
Exactly. Morocco is ruled by the Saudi dynasty, and they want to control the trans-Saharan trade and especially the Tagaza salt mines that are technically in Songhai territory.
So it's about resources?
Salt and gold. Morocco wants direct access to West African wealth without going through middlemen. And Morocco has something Songhai doesn't: firearms.
Guns?
Guns and cannons. Europeans have been selling firearms to North African states, and the Moroccans have adopted them. Songhai warriors still fight with traditional weapons: swords, spears, bows, and cavalry.
So there's a technology gap?
A critical one. And in 1590, the Moroccan Sultan Ahmad al-Mansur decides to invade Songhai. He sends an army of about 4,000 soldiers, including many European mercenaries and renegades, led by a Spanish eunuch named Judar Pasha.
Wait, a Spanish commander leading a Moroccan army into West Africa?
The late 1500s were complicated, and this army crosses the Sahara, which takes months and is incredibly dangerous. Many soldiers die of thirst and exhaustion, but in early 1591 they reach the Niger River.
And the Songhai are ready.
The Songhai Emperor, Askia Ishak II, assembles an army, probably 30,000 to 40,000 warriors, including thousands of cavalry. They outnumber the Moroccans 10 to 1.
So Songhai should win, right?
In theory. But on April 12, 1591, at the Battle of Tondibi, the Moroccan guns prove decisive. When the Songhai cavalry charges, the Moroccans open fire with muskets and cannons.
And the Songhai can't defend against that?
They've never faced firearms before. The noise, the smoke, the devastating effect, it breaks their charge. The Songhai army panics and flees. The battle is over in hours.
One battle destroys the empire?
One battle breaks their military power. The Moroccans march to Gao and capture it. Then they take Timbuktu. The Songhai Empire effectively collapses.
That's so fast.
It's shockingly fast. And the Moroccans try to establish control, but they can't really govern the empire. They're too far from Morocco. They face resistance from Songhai loyalists, and the desert makes communication and supply nearly impossible.
So they conquer but can't hold it.
They control the major cities for a while, but the empire fragments. Local rulers become independent. The trans-Saharan trade declines because there's no stable authority protecting routes. The region enters a period of instability.
So everyone loses?
In a way, yes. The Songhai Empire is destroyed, the Moroccans can't effectively govern, and the intellectual life of Timbuktu declines. Many scholars flee or are killed, manuscripts are destroyed or scattered.
That's a cultural tragedy.
It really is. And by the 1600s, the Moroccan garrison in Timbuktu becomes autonomous and marries into local populations, becoming the Arma people. But they never recreate the Songhai Empire.
What about European colonization?
That comes later. The French colonized West Africa in the 1800s, but the region never sees another unified empire like Songhai.
So what's the legacy?
Songhai represents the peak of West African imperial organization. They showed how to govern vast territories, blend Islamic and African cultures, and support intellectual life. The manuscripts from Timbuktu survive as evidence of African scholarship.
And the people?
The Songhai people still exist today. About 3 million people in Mali, Niger, and Benin speak Songhai languages. They're descendants of the empire's population.
So the empire ended, but the culture survived?
Partially, yes. As always, empires rise and fall, but cultures continue.
All right, we've covered the rise, the peak, and the fall of the Songhai Empire. Time for lessons. What can we learn from the last great West African empire? Charlie, you're first.
Here's mine. Technology can level the playing field instantly. The Songhai had numbers, they had experience, they had home field advantage. But the Moroccans had guns, and that was enough to win decisively. The lesson? Technological advantage can overcome almost every other factor. Whether it's weapons, communication, or any other technology, falling behind can be catastrophic. You have to stay aware of what others have and adapt, or you'll get left behind.
Adapt or become obsolete.
Exactly.
That's great. Mine's about learning from others and improving their systems. The Songhai didn't invent the trans-Saharan trade system or the idea of taxing gold. Mali did that. But the Songhai studied Mali, learned from Mali's mistakes, and created a more organized administrative system. The lesson? You don't always have to be first or most original. Sometimes success comes from taking someone else's good idea and executing it better. Learn from those who came before, refine their methods, and improve.
Innovation includes improving, not just inventing.
Exactly.
Love it. Mine's about the importance of preserving knowledge. Timbuktu had hundreds of thousands of manuscripts representing centuries of scholarship. When the empire fell, many were lost, destroyed, or scattered. But the ones that survived show us how sophisticated West African intellectual life was. The lesson: Knowledge is fragile. Libraries, books, manuscripts, digital archives, they can be destroyed in moments but take generations to create. We have to actively preserve knowledge, because once it's lost, it's gone forever. Protect your libraries, digital and physical.
Protect knowledge like you protect anything valuable.
More than anything valuable, because you can't recreate it once it's lost.
That's profound.
The Songhai Empire is so impressive. I had no idea West Africa had this level of organization.
Most people don't because it's not taught enough. But empires like Ghana, Mali, and Songhai were as sophisticated as their European and Asian contemporaries.
And hopefully episodes like this help people learn about them.
That's why we do this.
Exactly. All right, next week we're covering the Safavid Empire in Persia, the empire that made Shia Islam dominant in Iran, created stunning architecture and art, and fought the Ottomans for control of the Middle East. It's going to be beautiful.
The Safavid period is one of the most artistically rich in Persian history. I can't wait.
I'm ready for it.
Same. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for hanging with us on Blueprints of Power.
I'm Lily.
I'm Charlie.
And I'm Jack, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.